Flights across the U.S. have resumed this morning after the Federal Aviation Administration previously ordered all airlines to pause all domestic departures due to an outage in the FAA's Notice to Air Mission system. OAG Sr. Aviation Analyst John Grant is joining us now. So, John, obviously that this could have happened at all is pretty alarming. What is the solidity, if you will, or the reliability of this system to begin with?
It's pretty good. I mean, we should never say it's a one-off event, but it's not happened for quite some time. And clearly it's a frustration for every airline and for every passenger who's turned up early at an airport and been unable to travel this morning. But perhaps more than anything, it shows that there needs to be more resilience in the systems and in the infrastructure for air services throughout the United States. It's an area that's been sorely lacking investment for probably 10 or 15 years now. So I know the FAA and the administration are conscious of the need to invest in this space.
Right. So who's responsible for that investment, and where will this kind of renew calls as there's going to be a Senate committee that seems prone to really investigate this at this point in reaction, but there have been issues in the past of some senators pushing back against FAA funding as well.
Well, ultimately, the airlines and ultimately the passengers going to pay for this. If it means that there are increased charges for navigation services that are passed to the airlines by the FAA, then that's a measure of recovery. But in the context of global aviation, navigation charges in the United States are almost zero. So compared to Europe, where airlines pay quite a lot to Eurocontrol and other pieces of airspace, such as in Russia, where navigation charges are outrageously high, it's been a pretty free run for the airlines. So I think this is probably going to be another piece of that need to rethink about air services, the infrastructure, the way they're administered in the United States, and particularly in the domestic market. It's fascinating to see what happened after the cyclone bomb. The FAA obviously demanding airlines to treat passengers with more care and attention. And now, of course, one of the FAA's major systems collapses and leaves the airline stranded for 6 or 7 hours, and now trying to pick up the pieces.
John, we had a guest earlier on the show suggest that there aren't not enough qualified people running the FAA. Would you agree with that?
I would say that the whole industry through the pandemic has lost skilled people in all areas. And not just in the United States. This is a global issue. We've lost licensed engineers, we've lost pilots, we've lost air traffic controllers who've all taken voluntary redundancy, retirement, whatever it happens to be. And those skill sets are missing, and it does put pressure on the whole system and the whole industry. It was interesting to observe last week that the CEO of Delta Airlines was saying, they've re-employed 30,000 employees through the pandemic, and the experiences they've had in the last month in terms of weather, disruption, delays. It's the first time many people will have faced those experiences, those operational issues. And only when you've lived through that can you actually begin to understand what you can and cannot do and how these things work. So the whole industry is, once again, relearning and re-equipping for these moments when everything begins to go a little bit wrong.
For the past 5 years, and I guess in aggregate over that period of time, customers or passengers have had to really wrap their heads around what a revamp of certain aircrafts may look like, or issues around Boeing 737 MAX. They've had to wrap their heads around what a pilot shortage does in terms of impacting what their own customer experience is like. And now it comes to light that there's issues with even some of the systems that the FAA has and the amount of funding that have been invested in order to bring their systems and their technology up to speed. What really needs to be done going forward to assure passengers that there's a safe mechanism and safe procedural system that continues to be in place and invested in?
Well, the first thing to say is, and to reassure everyone, air travel is every year is safer and safer. And if you look at any of the metrics, then the improvements that are being made, not just in terms of safety, but in terms of carbon emissions and everything the industry is doing about sustainability points to it heading in the right direction. But there does need to be investment in these areas. And I think what we're going to see now is those airlines that have not invested are going to have to invest heavily. And that's the likes of perhaps Southwest, who are going to have to put more automated systems in place. And those airlines such as Delta Airlines, who consistently outperform every other US airline along with Hawaiian in terms of on-time performance, will reap the benefit of the actions and the investment they've taken in recent years. But, the industry is completely safe. The fact that as soon as these NOTAMs were no longer being issued, a ground stop was put in place. It de-risked any potential event occurring in the skies. And those aircraft that were in the skies already had their NOTAMs with them, so they were safe as well. It's inconvenient. It's a great news story, but in the context of this industry, there is no safer industry, I think, at the moment that is investing more and more in safety.
All right, really good words there and wisdom. OAG Senior Aviation Analyst John Grant, appreciate the analysis and the insights. Thanks so much.